We're going to be talking about English paper piecing. Now this set here got chewed on by a Beetlejuice, but I recovered it a little bit, but we'll talk more about that and how easy it is to do. In the upcoming videos, we will be talking about technique and how to sew it together, but I just want to give you guys a basic overview so you understand what it is. So before we get started, intro.
You're up.
All right. Well, hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Sue, and I'm from OML Embroidery, and this video is going to be OML Crafty Extras. We're going to do some fun stuff. I, Sue, can see you. I can hear you, but no picture. I don't.
Probably just delayed a bit.
It might be just delayed a little bit. That was like a little stressful. So English paper piecing. So the first recorded or documented English paper.
Sorry.
Gee, Dawn, did you have a drink?
Sorry.
Was in the early 1800s, around about 1810. And they used to have leftover papers, like it literally has papers in it, literally papers, and you just wrap it around and you sew them together. So the beauty of this is that it's small pieces and you can't see the stitches. Well, this one was chewed, so maybe you can. Maybe not a good example. So I started off with the hexagons because they're so much fun and they're easy to do. And once you can get good stitches on hexagons, you can get good stitches on any of them. So these two, I'm making a large quilt. I've been at it for a couple of months, so I feel confident enough to do that. Scrap busters, scraps have totally changed in my book because I now have a drawer for English paper piecing scraps because you can go in as big and as small as you want. But these are my fussy cutting ones off of the same fabric, so I have the same design around the center.
Sarah J says great fussy cutting.
Yes, thank you. That was, I think I did that over Christmas. I actually have 20 more of them because it's a big quilt. But now these are a different shape. These are diamonds. And see what you can do with the fussy cutting too. Make it look more like a pattern, I guess. Oh, now this was fun. Now these are hexagons. Look, the hexagon is from there to there, but with stripey. So it's also fussy cut, but how cute is that? Did you see that one, Dawn?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Isn't that cute? I know.
The stripes are cool.
Now, I left this one in here to show you there's more than one way. You don't have to hand sew them in a certain way. This is freezer paper that you iron onto the back, and you can take this to the machine and sew it. It's kind of, I didn't really care for this way, but I just wanted to show you guys. Or you could hand sew it, and then, it takes a lot less time. It's really what you're comfortable with. I prefer the old-fashioned way, and it's easy to do, but look how pretty that is. So they used to make old quilts, big quilts, out of, matching fabric if you were lucky. But isn't it pretty? Like you can't see my stitches. These are some of my earlier ones. We've got the paper shapes on the back. And look how pretty it is together with, say, 3 colors. Look, isn't that nice? I put the lighter one. And this is just from a little layer cake. And with some different colors. Isn't that pretty?
I love it.
And if you were going to sew it together, look how pretty you can get it. So these are just the ones I was playing with. Size does not matter. I was having a hard time with small fiddly pieces, so I went, okay, I'm going to make bigger pieces. And I made this octagon inside an octagon, and look how pretty that is. Look at how pretty that is. And it was a lot easier, and it gave me more time to practice. And there's no Y seams or anything like that. You're sewing this one to this one to this one, so on and so forth. But I really like that. And this is my first practice at fussy cutting. And I really think this is cute. This is one of my favorites, fussy cutting ones. I take out the middle because it's my way of sewing it in together. So, by the way, just the rule is you don't want to take out the cardstock until they have all sides stitched, or else it kind of gets messy.
Misha says that her cousins have some old quilts made from printed flour sacks from the Depression that her great-grandmother made, and they're gorgeous.
Yes, yes. Well, you could replicate that. Here is a different kind of fussy cutting that I did. Now, this one took a little bit longer, but...
Lisa's asking if you take the paper out after.
You do, yes, you do. And I can see if I can show you one. But see how this is one piece, and then I still have it folded back properly? There's a little trick to that, but it's all connected in 3 octagons. Hexagons, sorry, I said octagon. Yeah, holy fussy cutting. I found it quite enjoyable. Isn't that nice? So that's going to be part of my Lally Rock quilt, which is awesome. So for the shapes of the, to make them, I started off with hexagon. I just want to say octagon, doc maybe. They're cheap to buy, or you can cut them out yourself, or you can go to Michael's and get one of the cutter things. And that's what I started off doing. I got some pre-cut ones because I didn't want mine to be crooked and crappy, and that's easy to do, believe me. And then you can buy them like this. Sue Daly is a big designer, and this was not very expensive at all, but this is the cardstock, and you wrap the fabric around. Whoops. There are templates that you can use. This is a Sue Daly template, and the holes are for marking the 1/4 inch seam line that you want. So I haven't done too many clamshells because the curve part is difficult. I've almost got it. Another thing I did was I bought, and they're really quite inexpensive. They're called So Easy. And let me just show you right here. Makes it easier. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but they're all different shapes of octagons. You can get, I'm just going to say octagon, apparently. Hexagon. And you can get different sizes of, like, say, pentagons, and I think there's triangles. But this might help you out doing it. But otherwise, I mean, you could print out a cardstock. There's lots of stuff to actually print out and cut it. Just be as precise as you can. Now, one thing I fell in love with was Tula Pink. She's awesome. And she has these magnificent patterns like this with her fabric. I can't get any of her fabric yet, but, and this is English paper piecing, but I was quite surprised that all the pieces are big. Look at the size of this one. I think it's in the middle one. Look at the size. So that'll be a lot of fun, easier to fussy cut. Beautiful colors and shapes. I mean, I thought it was awesome. She does, like, cool stuff.
There's this Tula Rocks.
Tula Rocks, yes. Tula Rocks. So, let me show you what you need to get started. Now, there's many things that will help you along with it, but to get started, honestly, you don't need anything at all. You need school glue. I prefer this glue, but you can use school glue. You need some shapes, and if you get hexagons, then they match up very well and it's easy, and then you can just work on your sewing. I quite like that. You can also do it, by the way, in your Cricut Maker. Just got to make sure everything matches. So a 1-inch hexagon is the measurement of one side, just so you know, because it sounds kind of like a 1-inch hexagon should be like this big, but it's only on one side. So a 4-inch hexie will be huge, and we don't really want that. And there's more than one way of doing everything, so I'm sure everyone will have a lot of suggestions and everything about it. Face together, good sides together is how you do it, and you match it up where you want it to go. Now I use my Loctites, my stitch tights right here, hooked onto my needle to hold it together, but not all the time. And the seam that you have to sew is right here, just between these two. And the whole point of this is that everything matches up. So you want to match corner to corner, and you're just taking little stitches with that little bit of space above the paper. We will be talking about it, don't worry. Which will put it together, and you open it up, and then you can stitch the next one. But the traditional is Grandma's Flower Garden, and it is just a whole bunch of hexies sewn together. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It made me happy to see it. Now, this is my working bin with the design that I'm working on. So I've got my extra pieces and my center pieces sort of thing. The needle that you're going to use, I used just a regular one. You don't want like a monster one. I think Sue Daly was the one who said you can't sew with a crowbar because it's going to look like you sew with a crowbar. So these ones are called Milner needles. And they're a little bit longer because it makes it easy, and it's got a bigger eye right here. You don't have to have them. You can just have the pack of hand needles that came with your machine or whatever. It doesn't matter as long as it's a needle. I like mine on the larger size. That's how I work. It took me a while to figure out my groove. But this is what I do to relax at night. Unplugged, watch TV, sew. I usually sew one of these a night, and I feel good and I feel relaxed, and you're just still moving and doing everything. But it's good. It's good. There's a lot to cover. This is just an introduction to you guys. Now, the old way of attaching your fabric, I don't even have a blank one. I'm so efficient. Attaching your fabric to the cardboard to keep your corners. See how beautiful those corners are? Beautiful. I like to use glue. It saves a lot of time, but you can also sew baste them. Now, that is not what I do, but you can. You just like run your basting thread through, and it holds it down just as well. The glue is pretty quick. Like I said, I prefer this glue, and I'll show you why in the next video if everyone likes this. But this glue works just fine. I just found it a little bit messier. So for thread, to start off, you can use anything that you want for thread. You could use your embroidery machine thread. It's nice if you match it up a little bit, or not. For practice, just go. I am using what I can't remember, Invisifil Wonder something. I forgot to bring it down too. 100 weight. So that takes a little bit to get used to. It's so thin, and it's so staticky in this house, it kind of flies around. But you can use 60 weight single thread. I'll show you guys how to tie the proper knots and where to put them so you can hide it underneath. And Sue's gonna have to change the name of the channel. OML Embroidery and Fabric Crafts. Yeah, I would like to. I mean, I love the embroidery and will always be doing the embroidery. Right now, what I've been working on, I'll give you guys a little hint and a sneak peek, is putting embroidery on the fabric before you glue and sew it together. So the whole idea eventually will be to put it together and you'll end up with the embroidery design on it. And I think that would be good. No one else has done that. So this is my number one. It's a little bit bigger than my others, and I keep my glue, my needle, and the actual one that I'm working on. But I want to show you how to get organized, because I started a whole bunch of things and then gave up on a whole bunch of things. This I got from Michael's, and it was $24 Canadian, and which makes it kind of cheap in American, and it's for photography. And I'm like, oh heck yeah, that's exactly what I want. So I keep other stuff in here, you know, from playing around trying to get used to things. So this is one, and I've got the thread that I used for it in there. I've got the paper pieces, I purchased those, and I've got everything set up, and I've started stitching it. So it's really handy for that. So these are my Christmas ones. I have fussy cut out some more Christmas ones. Look, isn't that pretty? So I have these all ready to go. And I can show you guys about the fussy cutting, because it's actually an absolute ton of fun. Oh, I showed you guys that one. So 2-inch fabric. So I pre-cut the fabric. I did these on the Cricut. So a half hexie and...
A little bit higher on the screen.
What do you mean?
Move towards the center more. Yeah.
Well, you said higher. Look at the size of this hexie. I think this is a 3. Hexie 3. Whew. But I pre-cut everything. I just did a whole thing of it on the Cricut, and it was handy, and made sure all my angles are the right way. And then I did some, and then I stopped. This fabric is from the larger the hexie that I showed you. So let me close this up. Or not.
Says she has one of those boxes somewhere amongst the chaos in her house.
I find it really handy. And then, of course, I use my little printer thingy to print what it is. So here's more 2-inch shapes. So more that go with that one. And 1-inch. So you have a lot going on. These 1-inch shapes match the first one that I showed you. But see, diamonds, 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 so many diamonds. So I know what I'm doing when I start again. I did even more Christmas ones because I was having fun with it. It was awesome. I think if we have time, I am going to grab a piece. This is a smaller needle that I had that I didn't really care for too much for whatever reason. I'm sure there's a reason. It's just too small. Maybe my nails couldn't get around it. Are there any questions? You guys following me so far? I've got more pages, more cutouts there at the larger size. And if we go here, where it says Lolly and Lolly, I might be almost out of screen. Lolly and Lolly, this is for the quilt that I'm working on, the Lollybrook. And look, I used my AccuQuilt and cut all these up except for the gems. I used my Cricut for that. And everything's ready, and it cuts fabric too, so I just went crazy and just cut my whole bin worth, and it's lovely. And also Lalibra here, which is a little bit different, and I'm putting sticky notes in them too. Isn't the fabric gorgeous? So I've already glued these, and they are supposed to have the tail that you see here, and we will be talking about that. So it's cool. So all the fabric picked out, everything is cut out. This again was, other than the gems, were done on the AccuQuilt. So I love it. And
the tail is normal?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yep, it's supposed to be there. So look,
I was wondering.
yeah. Well, that's part of the technique, and they match up quite nicely, and it also helps for sewing. So there's another needle, but look at these guys. Isn't that something? So what I did with these ones, I just had this god-awful fabric. I don't know why I have it. And I did some cutting, and see, they fit in. And if you cut a striped fabric just right, look what you get. So there's so many more things we can do. Isn't that pretty? And you know what? When it's all done, you can sew it onto a quilt, or, you know, fabric that you're going to make into a quilt. So yeah, there's tons here, but look at how pretty. It's kind of funny because to see this sheet, you look and go, yeah, right, I don't know when I'm ever going to use it. And then you cut it up a little bit, and it's kind of cute because it's not all in one. That's awesome. Jill Scarsbrick, thank you very much. So stripes are your friend, and polka dots are your friend. And also really ugly, gaudy fabric, because look. Isn't that awesome? So these are the hexies again that I fussy cut, so they're all the same. So that will look amazing when you lay it all out. Isn't that cool? I love the red on the top. So we're laying it out. Isn't that neat?
Neato.
That was from the same set that was Bright and Wow. Just Bright and Wow, that's all I've got for it. So this is a really great way to keep everything organized. This was my practice bin, so there's... I try to test out as much as I can for you guys. But there we go. So let me show you this. This goes with the 1-inch hexagon, and these are all the pieces that go with it, and these are cut by AccuQuilt. So I'm not saying you need to go out and buy an AccuQuilt. I'm just saying it saved me a ton of time, and I'm still playing, so it was worth it for me. They seem kind of small, half XC. Wait till you see the triangle by itself. Ugh. Well, I was working on sewing it together, and then I decided it was all too small for me yet. So I moved on to bigger things. So I still kept all the work that I did, and you can put them together. Oh, look, little itty bitty diamonds. And it's just leftover fabric that I had. Look, there's our 1-inch.
It's a great project for clearance fabrics.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. We can't, we're not off of our lockdown, but I said to Dawn, go get me ugly fabric. Because I'm serious, the bright swirly ones that I showed you, ugly, man. It was, but it looks fantastic as English paper piecing. So this is more cut by AccuQuilt, but you do not have to have anything like that. So
Jill says I must have a go at it, but when am I going to embroider, sew, and knit?
I have no idea. Well, this is for upstairs after dinner. That's how
Relax time.
Yeah, relax time. And you can get like a lap desk and put the lap desk on it and just, try. I pulled out, I just want to show you quickly about the gluing. Isn't that guy cute?
Very cute.
So you don't have to glue the fabric down. Now this is one, because I fussy cut it, that it's not perfect, and it doesn't have to be. And this is how easy it is to glue. So this is, I forget the name of it. They're everywhere though. Sewer's Help or something. I'll look for you guys. And to glue it is also quite therapeutic. Dawn actually helped me on one with the big lallybrock that I'm doing and sat and glued. So what I like about this glue is it's got a smaller kind of opening. So you go 1, 2, you don't want to glue up to the edge, but then you just press it down. And you don't want it like extremely tight because you need to sew. So from the fabric to the fabric, and then just press it down. And fabric to fabric. Try not to catch the top edge there. You might have a little bit of a hard time stitching it, but the idea is when you stitch the top that you don't, or when you're stitching them together, that you don't stitch through the paper, and then guess what? You can use the paper again. Just pull it out at the end or in the middle. I like to, when I'm doing the hexagons, I like to do it that way.
Alicia says Roxanne's glue based is good to use too.
Yes, yes. This one's a little bit easier though, that it sticks the fabric right away, but if you have Roxanne's, use Roxanne's. Now I used just what I had here, basically. I bought the paper shapes though, because me and shapes don't actually get along very well. I always forget about the angles, and all the diamonds have angles and blah blah blah. So that is one. You could do another one, and you put the right sides together. Look at my sharp corners here. And you're just sewing just on top of here. And like everything else with English paper piecing, there's more than one way to sew. I happen to stitch backwards, and I can't make myself do it the right way. So stitching backwards is what I'm doing. I can't seem to change it. So let me just give you a quick tour of stitching, and keep in mind we will be doing much more of it, and we'll go over the different stitches and everything.
If you can go closer to the middle of your mat there, when you do it, I can zoom in.
Closer to the middle. Let me move. The stool is the problem. The stool where Lynn sits. There, that's better. I can reach it. So, well, I'm just going to give you, this isn't, an all-inclusive kind of lesson. We will go over it much more. So it's hard to see the thread I'm using because this is 100 weight. I actually have a hard time seeing it as well. So I'm taking it, and this is called a quilter's knot. I just wrapped it around my needle and then pull it down. My thread is almost too long. There we go. Now I tie, there's no way you guys can see this thread. You don't have to use 100 weight. You can use 60 weight. You can do whatever you want. I started out with 60, 40 or 60 weight just because it was what I had. I just grabbed some embroidery thread. And then when I wanted to really get my stitches down, then I switched over to 100 weight, and I struggle a little bit because it's so thin, but bark, 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 bark. So the first thing I'm gonna do I'm gonna have to stop them, Don. The first thing I'm gonna do is kind of go up here on the corner. Just a little bit here. And this hides your knot. And my thread is too long. Shorter is better when it comes to English paper piecing. And that just tucks under there, and it is going to be good. Take my glasses off so I can see. I'm going to readjust, and then I'm going to put, see, I do it backwards. Most people go this way. I can't go that way. It just doesn't work for me. My brain works like this. And I do beautiful work, so I'm not even worried about it. So if you are pushing through and it's really hard, like this, I use my nails, that means you're on the paper a little bit. See how I'm struggling? Wow. Yeah. I would have aborted that one and said, no, thank you.
That's in the paper?
Yeah, that's in the paper. So your first stitch is weird because I can't see. There we go. And then you leave a loop and you put your needle through it. Just a typical knot. See, this is the struggles with it too long. And you pull it tight, not too tight, and then you do the same thing again. So right through there. Now that's much better. I'm right in the middle, Don. So I'm leaving a loop, putting my needle through the loop, and we're going to do a knot. Now the basic stitch that we're going to use is called a whip stitch. And it's pretty darn easy to do. All right, so I have my corners secured, making sure everything matches. This is where the magnets come in handy. So I just hold it like this on the first one. And what we're going to do here is one side, the other side. Now we don't want to jab it right there. We want to just go across. Straight across is important. So I'm just kind of pushing it in, and I hit paper, and that's not good. But see, I'm not taking very much of the fabric. So they say 2, 3, or 4 threads from it. And there is a bit of tension, so we want to pull it a little bit, make sure nothing is getting caught around.
Misha says you need a thimble that allows for nails. I have some for my ornaments.
No.
Saved my fingertips.
Mine are pretty strong. So again, and it has to be straight this way. The idea, the joy of this is that you make your stitches consistent and beautiful, and they don't show on the front. So again, most people stitch like this. I can't do it.
There's a bit of confusion about the paper and when you should remove it if you remove it.
The paper can only be removed, should only be removed when each side of it has been stitched. So these ones have to stay in until I stitch something else around it. Otherwise, you'll lose your corners to stitch it to something else.
So once all sides are complete, then you pull it?
All sides. All sides. Now I do this one. Once I get all of these, I do this one because it helps put them together so I don't have to fold. So I'd be doing like this one here, and so it just really helps. I do, when I sew these, this is a hex in the middle. I sew the bottoms, and then I take this out, and then I have more flexibility to sew this part. So I sew that part on everything, and then I sew that one. That is just my way of doing it. I just find it easier. Otherwise, you'd have to bend the paper that would be in there. So, but as a general rule, don't worry about removing the papers. It's actually quite easy to do. So it takes a little bit to get used to this 100-weight thread. I sit in my comfy chair with a big light on me because you need to be able to see it. So little stitches, the key is to make sure that they go straight, so, and a little bit tight. And you'll be surprised at how quickly you can get through it, and it's awesome. I'm not quite halfway there, but I had to stop. But can you see how easy that is and how easy it goes through? And like I said, these reasons what I'm doing after every stitch is the reason why you do want shorter thread. It's supposed to be the length of your arm only. And mine is way too long. I'm not sure what I was doing. Let's see.
You had stretchy arms when you did it.
Maybe. Maybe. So that is almost a perfect amount. It is above the paper, cardstock, I guess it is. And it flowed smoothly. It would go faster if we didn't have all this excess thread. Plus, I find the excess thread gets caught on stuff, and it's really annoying when you have a loop because everything's going to loosen up and you do need some tension. So, la-di-da, do it right. I could have cut it before I knotted it, I suppose. But the idea, again, is the old-fashioned idea. When you're done, you don't see the stitches. But point to point to point to point. So just as a reminder, I'm not going to stitch that anymore because I'm just simply going to have to unpick it. We are going to go over everything. But just as a reminder, you can purchase kits if you want. So Tula Nova is relatively new, and you can buy the pattern, which has instructions, and you can get every single paper that you need. And just follow her instructions. Large things like this are made in pieces. So these three, you make 1, 2, 3, and then stitch them together. 1, 2, 3, stitch them together. That sort of thing. So you're not, going this way and this way on it. You're putting it together in blocks. So are there any questions so far? There's a lot more to it. I just wanted to show you guys what it is and what you can get started with for stitching. You guys saw my practice ones. They're not the greatest, but this one was getting, this is really one of my earlier ones. This one is getting better because you can't see my stitches. And it's nice and tidy on the back. So you can't see them. I was like, and I just kept working at it. I just kept trying and trying. See, I can see some of these stitches, so I wasn't pulling them tight enough. And Beetlejuice took out one. And that is why you don't take your papers out. Can you see? It's supposed to be folded down. You could pop a little glue in it if it happened by accident, but it changes the integrity of your hexagon because we want these nice sharp corners that look great sewn together. This one is a little better. No, I can see stitches here. So I wasn't, in this one, I wasn't doing the stitches narrow enough or tight enough because you're not supposed to be able to see through it. But that was just a practice, and I seem to have a hole right there too. So yeah, all right, I needed some more work, and I did more work. So playing around with fabrics, I just think this is really cute. I love how it all matched up. That's a little bit of fussy cutting. And then these, I just wanted to try working with diamonds. And I kind of like the way this one turned out. I'd like to put a red one in each of the corners. I think that would look good. And then, of course, my fussy cutting. I think I spent all day cutting them, didn't I, Don? I might have.
Yeah.
All day. And I just cut them out and, glued them on the back and put them all together. So there's 18 of these. And I'm done those, so now I get to do more. I'm so excited. Very fun. So it's relaxing. It is not stressful. Anyone can help you glue the parts together, and you could stitch one row, and if you don't feel like it, you could stop. You could stitch 2 of these if you have enough time. It reduces the guilt too of sitting on your butt watching TV. Just saying, it's fine, but it's very crafty and it's very beautiful, and the ultimate scrap buster, because there's some small pieces that you can get. So it's awesome. So in the next video, I think we should talk about techniques and the different ways of sewing the designs together. So there's a flat back method where you do this. There's a ladder stitch method where it's open and you stitch in between back and forth and then pull it. There's so many different methods. I didn't like any of them. I'm just going to stick with my whip stitch and stitching backwards. By the way, I will point out that Tula Pink stitches the same way I do, and she couldn't change it either, and she just said, "Too bad, so sad" to everyone. That made me feel a whole lot more confident. She said, "It doesn't matter how you stitch it as long as you do stitch it." So don't worry about that. I spent probably a week trying to do it the normal way, and my brain doesn't work like that.
How much seam allowance do they generally have on it? Pieces?
Quarter to 3/8 of an inch on the back. You don't want to do it too short because it's going to come up. It's not glued down there for life. It's going to be sewn together and pressed. And these ones, the pink, and then this is what AccuQuilt does. So it's a little bit of a larger one. Now these ones as well, I think. So yeah, a quarter inch to a little bit more.
How do you know what size to cut your hexies at?
Well, okay, I know what you're asking. So I was trying, once I got all this started, to put stuff together because it seems like the thing to do. So if you're doing a pattern, you have to worry about what sizes to cut your hexies. But you don't have to worry because they will tell you if you're doing a pattern. If you're doing just practice, then the average size is 1 inch. But if you have a hard time and you want to make something bigger so you can practice your stitching, and the bigger pieces are already easy to hold, that's what I did. And by the time I got all this stitching done, I felt way more confident about it. Way more. So any size, the mistake I kept making again and again, I was going to try to design my own English paper piecing pieces. Angles are everything, so you can stitch together hexies. I mean, if they're the same size, they're going to go together. Half hexies. But if you go to diamonds, you got to remember that there's a 60-inch diamond and a smaller, or 45. Yeah, I think the 40.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's like they don't work interchangeably. And if you're not thinking about the angles, it's not going to go in the place that you want. So ask me how I know. I did it 5 times at least. So then I decided to buy some pre-made papers because the AccuQuilt ones at this point were still too small for me. So I just purchased some papers, which is super easy to do and not very expensive. But you see, I could explain it. If you don't cut these perfectly, then it's going to start being off. So if this angle, if you cut it and this angle was off, then this would not be able to stitch to it. It'd have to like fold over. So they have to be even. You could get a punch. I have seen them in Michael's. You could get a paper punch and punch out a whole bunch.
Okay, so if you had a 1-inch hexie and you wanted to cut the fabric for it, how do you know how much bigger to make it? Like how to do it?
You could do it a 1 1/4 or 1 3/8. Yeah, it's like just add it to it. And when you cut the fabric, it does not have to be cut perfectly. Mine are, because I used my AccuQuilt. The other thing you could do if you have a package like this is for cutting the fabric. So this thing is for cutting the fabric, and then it has circles drilled in it for the seam allowance. So it's easy enough to do it that way. So it tells you the size of it right up here. This is a 1.5 inch. So that's the paper, 1.5 inch. And this one uses a 1 1/4 seam allowance. Now let's look here at Tula Pink's. So when I bought her Tula Nova, the Nova here, it came with all the paper pieces, and then I purchased the templates if I wanted to make more. And Tula prefers a 3/8 seam. That was the number. So all of hers will have a 3/8 seam on them, you can see. And she uses different shapes, like it's not just your basic hexagon, pentagon, all that kind of stuff. So it's really up to you, a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, somewhere in between. I don't think it matters, just as long as it goes over the back. It just makes it nice. Some people really prefer, they figure they get a better look on it, but I haven't noticed any difference. So small little templates, or, bigger templates even, will help you through it. But if you don't have any of this, grab your embroidery thread, grab a sewing needle, cut up some paper, and practice. That's all you have to do, practice. And that's what I did. That's how I started. I just picked some sets of fabric that I knew I wouldn't have enough for anything else, but you'll be surprised how far like a layer cake can go.
Are you using like regular paper or cardstock?
Cardstock I like the best because it just feels more substantial. Some people like the freezer paper. Again, I didn't really care for it. I found it too fiddly for me, but you might love it. You might absolutely love it. And what they used to do in the early days, any paper that was like leftover, like newspaper or whatever, they would cut it out and then they would make it into their quilt. So yeah, in the 1800s, they were very frugal and used everything they could. Kind of like the crazy quilting craze. But anyways, Tula Nova and Sue Daly, and there's a whole bunch more. It's the new trend, and machine quilters and sewers are absolutely loving it. And I tested it and I worked with it And I love it too. I find it very rewarding, very relaxing. And the stuff I'm coming up with, it's just amazing. I love it. So we're going to keep working on this. We're going to put a couple pieces together from start to finish. And I'll show you guys how to make the hexagon flower. Just simple stuff. And the different ways of stitching, if I can pull it off. They're kind of hard for me. But there's lots to do and lots to learn. But if you're not sure, don't go out and buy fancy stuff. If you want fancy stuff, go and get it. But I'll be showing you as much as I can of much as I have the fancy stuff, because I wanted to test everything out for you guys. So awesome. Are there any more questions? No? Okay, well, we can ask them in the group. Now, this is going to go under OML Crafty Extras. This is just something extra that I thought you guys would be interested in, because I absolutely love doing it. It's a lot of fun. Definitely, it's a lot of fun. And I'm very proud. I always think my grandmother would look and go, wow, and be really proud of what I'm doing. So I think it's fun. Thank you, Sue and Dawn. Such an interesting class, something new to learn that sounds so much fun. Yeah, it's so much fun, and you really, really don't need anything special for it to start. I mean, I have the very thin thread, but it was hard for me to use at first, so I just didn't. Cut some shapes, cut some fabric, glue it together, sew it together, and you have something, and you just start building on that. So next time we will talk about stitching the hexagons together, and we can work on that in the few different ways, and what you're looking for, and what makes a good seam sewn together. So yeah, look forward to more. I'll post the more stuff I get. I will post for you guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Are we going to the Sue cam?
No, it's frozen.
Okay, no Sue cam.
Sorry.
Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you guys like this video. I hope you guys will carefully cut out some hexagons and stitch them together. It's a lot of fun. And this is just a beginner intro, because a lot of people, like me, said, what's English paper piecing? Like, what is it? Are you using paper? Yep, you are. For sure. Yep, now you know. And it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to make Tula's designs. I'm way off from that. Can you imagine me picking out this fabric, though? Ooh! I love it. I love it. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Bye everyone.
Sorry, no Sue cam.